Before you even think about post-secondary school, whether that's college or grad school, you need to ask yourself two questions. The first, is this something that you really want to do? The second is, can you do it without the degree? Once you have those questions answered, I think that you can have an easier route with making the decisions on whether you're going to go to school after high school. Hi everyone! This is Jakira Jones. Thank you for tuning in to today's video. I'm going to be talking about how I got into NYU and one of the graduate programs. First, I want to say that NYU has a dozen graduate programs that you can actually choose from, whether you're interested in humanities, journalism, law, business school, policy, nonprofit management. The list goes on. So just to tell you a little bit, I guess, about myself before I go into the checklist, I did my undergrad at Syracuse University, and there I got majority of my tuition paid off through scholarship. And I am also the first in my family to go to college as well as grad school at this point. I graduated there with a 3.6 GPA, so that made me a magna cum laude. I worked hard to get there. It was definitely stressful, to say the least. I went to school full time, and I had several jobs while in school just because I'm like always used to working. I've been working since I was 14 years old. Started working in Popeyes, then it just went to summer youth employment, internships at the Vera Institute of Justice, ACLU, Onondaga Volunteer Lawyers Program. During my undergrad year, I did a lot of things just because I wanted to build my resume, and I always knew that like different types of enrichment would just look better, and then I could just meet people and network with different professionals. So after I graduated school, I didn't go straight into grad school because remember the two questions of, is this something that I really wanted to do, and can I do it without the degree? So I knew that I wanted to study policy and politics. I wanted to be involved in the political realm in some ways. A lot of the work that I did was in the public service, public interest realm, and so I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So for me, I always had the idea that I was going to go to law school because I wanted to be an attorney. After I graduated Syracuse, I met someone through my network from working as a paralegal in another nonprofit law firm, and I was working there for probably about a year and 10 months, and I met someone there at the job who read my personal statement that I was going to send into for law school. So she reads my personal statement and she just commends me on basically my writing ability and just like I'm a great storyteller and all this other things, right? So she says I've done a great job, and she wants to connect me with someone that she knows who's also a writer. So I meet this woman. We sat down and we talked about basically her journey as a black woman being an attorney, and then she told me how graduate programs that I could look into, and I don't necessarily have to take the law school route to do so. And so I listened to her, but then again I was also like, girl, you got your JD, you're able to practice, so why are you telling me not to go to law school? That was in the back of my head. So I studied for the LSAT for a while, and when I was taking like my practice tests, I wasn't really doing too well, and it could have been like I was working full time and also trying to study, and then also living in kind of a dysfunctional home at the time, and so like my life was chaotic, and then I was also trying to study, and it wasn't looking good for me. So I just put it to the side for a while. I decided to look into the program, and that's when I found NYU Wagner School for Public Service. There I felt like, okay, they're literally saying everything that I want to do and want to be without having a JD. Like literally everything. And flexibility within the school. 46% of the students are part-time students, so then you have people who work and go to school, and then like the average age was 27, so already being 2 years removed from my bachelor's degree, you know, I'm gonna be around peers who are already in their field. Although I'm just probably a little below average with my age, I'm still gonna be around people who are working and have like similar goals The only unfortunate thing about, like, when I found out about NYU Wagner was that I found out pretty late during the admissions process. So I applied to this school probably 2 months before the actual deadline, which I would not advise anyone to do, mainly because all the money is in the beginning of the application process. So when you are applying to schools, and this goes for any school, whether it's your bachelor's, your graduate, or any other professional program you're in, all the money is allocated to the beginning of the admissions and application processes. So the people who apply earlier gets a better package than you would. So check the checklist for the application. The school required that you do 2 essays, one being basically describing a challenge that you overcome. Within the program, you know, we're working with the changes of society, basically, whether it's changing politically and changing socially. And so my guess is the reason why they curated that type of question was to see how students would manage within the real world. And the second question was, what fuels your interest in public service? So like I said, I basically talked about, you know, the need for me and how I've always just like dedicated my time and my life to youth development and social justice, basically. I'm simplifying it, obviously. Obviously, the words used were definitely different than how I'm discussing it now. Another thing they said was to do a video essay. The video essay was optional, but is also strongly recommended. And because I did not take the GRE is optional, but it's also strongly recommended, I felt like I should be at least able to do one of the two. So I did the video essay. And the video essay was quick, you know, YouTube, and you basically speak for about a minute about a time when you realize that this is something that you wanted to do, public interest, nonprofit management. So there, I'm pretty sure I talked about my experience doing study abroad. I felt like that was a good time because there I created my own independent study on housing discrimination against African immigrants in Paris, and I interviewed 25 people. I created surveys in both English and French and basically asked them about their experience, what's their comfortability, do they feel like they've been discriminated against based on their names, which districts, if comfortable, do you feel like you're not allowed to enter to. It's a whole bunch of stuff that I basically talked about, like that, the whole study abroad program that I was a part of. It's called Perry Noir, a really dope program. It was offered in Syracuse University, but I think it's also like you could also join the program and you don't have to necessarily be a Syracuse student. That program was I could talk more about it in a different video, but I learned so much when it came to James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, all the legends, Black Americans who went into Paris to seek refuge from America, and you know, their learnings and findings. So that was interesting. That's what I talked about in the video essay. The thing they tell you to include is your resume, and because I didn't go directly into graduate school, I built my that was a time for me to build my resume. Immediately after I graduated from Syracuse University, I got a job as a paralegal at a nonprofit law firm, and then I also worked as a program coordinator for a nonprofit organization that dealt with youth who were overaged in middle school. The school really looks for people who has done the work and doesn't just want to do the work. If that, hopefully that makes sense. So basically, makes sense. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is they want to see that you actually attempted to do the stuff that you're saying that you want to do as far as your career goes before you step into the school. You could say all day that you want to be a teacher, but have you applied to Teach for America? Have you done any work, any volunteer work that's basically teaching adolescents in impoverished neighborhoods? Have you done any type of tutoring for students? Have you joined any fellowships that was geared towards teaching? So they want to see basically those type of things on your resume. And then it's your transcript. So like I said, I had a 3.6 GPA, which is pretty decent, but I was also a double major. So my I majored in political science, and I also majored in African American studies, and I also did a minor in philosophy. So my majors definitely kind of blended in together because, you know, there isn't really much about politics that doesn't speak to the African American experience, and they're both like kind of historically and politically based. So like they both wrap around together, so I was able to do both. And the classes that I've taken was all like gender, sexuality, African American politics, American literature, I took a freedom of speech class. That was like, I took a lot of classes. I don't know why I'm trying to just basically list them all out for you, but I just do want you to kind of get an idea about like the type of stuff that I was working on. And so after that is a GRE, but it is optional, but it is strongly recommended. And then you have your application fee, which could be waived. Last but not least, you also need 2 letters of recommendations. So here's a tip. When a school says they strongly recommend something, I recommend that you bring that to the table. So just because it's like kind of suggestive, it's like a suggestive thing. Like, you ever been to the movie theaters? If you've been to like an AMC movie theaters, I worked at AMC before. So if you've been to like an AMC movie theaters, you'll always realize that they'll recommend you size up for 50 cents more or add a candy to the order. Now, that's because the manager tells them to do that. So if you have people on the admissions telling you, hey, we recommend that you show this part of your application, or you input this into your application, then you should do it. I could only give you advice that, you know, that I've actually done and that I feel like would have bettered my application. Now, the only reason why I didn't take the GRE was because, like I said, like I had a lot going on in my life during the time, and I felt that my application was going to be strong just because of my work experience, just because of the diversity that I bring to the table, but more so like my experience level, the type of people I worked with, the different cultures I worked with, and the people that I've worked for. I felt like the civic engagement that I brought to the table was pretty strong, especially for it being a public interest school. Public interest, public service school. The school recommended that you have a healthy balance between who you recommend or who you request to send you to do your letters. It should be an academic and somebody within your professional career. So I chose one of my professors who I felt like, where I've taken her classes. Like, I've taken several of her courses because I'm a stalker. No, it's hard because if you find, sidebar, if you find a good professor, just continue taking them. I'm saying that because 1, you build a relationship with them, and 2, they're more likely to teach an interesting, intriguing, critical thinking course, depending on your field. So I asked her, and then I also asked somebody that I interned with, who was basically also a mentor to me even afterwards. We still keep in contact. His name and his experience also rings bells using your network, because that's what networking is for. So I asked them to write me a recommendation. They wrote me like one of the best recommendations I ever read in my life. No joke. She sent it to me afterwards, and I was just so happy about what they wrote. So when you are picking someone to write a recommendation for you, please make sure it's somebody who knows you. Do not pick any old professor that you took once and you sat all the way in the back of their class and they don't even know your name. They just know that you got an A in the class. That is not good at all. Let's say that you received a B in a class, but you feel like this teacher knows you best. I would still ask for him or her to write a recommendation for you, just because if the class was rigorous, that teacher could explain the extent or the amount of time spent for the course, how many times you went to office hours, how many times you've been in contact with him or her during the semester about the course, to show that you're willing to learn and you're eager to work. So that's basically it. I know that was a lot to take on. I have no problem with going into the finances and everything at a later time, but I do want to add that nobody can be you, right? Schools aren't looking for somebody who's just got a 4.0 and is excelling and like everything, but like has no type of social skills. You know what I mean? Like, they're not looking for that. They're looking for well-rounded students so that they can have a well-rounded classroom. So what you bring to the table matters. And so I wouldn't necessarily compare like your GPA to my GPA or your experiences to my experiences. I think overall, whatever your strengths are, whatever makes you unique to do this type of work, and whatever makes you stand out in comparison to everybody else, I think that needs to be highlighted in your application. And when you are looking for the people to write your recommendations, I think they need to highlight that too. You can email your references and ask them, hey, do you remember that time when I worked on this large project and it couldn't get completed basically without me? Can you let them know that? Like, you could do stuff like that. I think overall you need to have a positive mindset too, because that's going to get you in. This school was the only school I applied to. I knew that I didn't want to go to anywhere else, and I knew that if I didn't get accepted into this school, I was just going to go to law school or keep studying for the LSATs. That was literally, it was either one or the other for me. And I put all my eggs in this basket. I'm not telling you just to go all out and to be like, and have NYU be the only school that you apply to, but I definitely think it shows commitment. It definitely shows that you know what you want as well. And I just kept a positive mindset about it all. I knew that I was going to get in, no doubts about it, because I knew that this is something I wanted to do and I believe that it was for me, and it happened. So, but I also done the work. I think that's the main thing. I've done the work to get into this school. So it's not just because, I'm a minority within this school, but it's because I've done the work as well, and what I bring to the table. So I wish you the best of luck during your time and during your application process. I know that it may get tough, but I do want to leave you guys with a quote, which is, working hard is the cost of entry. And so whatever you do, the effort you put into it, it's going to show. It's going to show. And you have what it takes. You have to have what it takes. You have to do the work to get the prize. Sometimes you cannot wait for others. You have to save yourself. So that's what I want to leave you all with. Good luck on everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. So any question you have at all about the process, just leave a comment and I'll try to respond as soon as possible. But I definitely will respond, because I know how hard it is, and I know people say they will respond, but and they don't. But I will definitely respond to you. If not, send you somewhere to where you can get the assistance. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you learned a lot. I know I said a lot, but this is my experience about how I got into NYU, and I hope it is helpful for your endeavors on whatever school you are attending. So bye.